The United States is currently facing a crisis that 99% of Americans have no clue is even going on. Today, I want to address what this crisis is. I want to talk about what Congress is currently doing and not doing to help, not help this going forward. And I want to explain what lawmakers are asking for at this time. So I'll break that down in just a moment. All I ask is one thing. It takes 2 seconds. Go ahead, hit that like button if you enjoy these daily updates. And now let's begin. So to come out and say that the United States has one crisis would be a false statement. The United States is currently facing multiple crises, but there is one that is impacting many people. And 99% of Americans have no clue this is even going on in the United States. And it actually has to do with fentanyl. Fentanyl is a drug, and this drug is continuously being smuggled into the United States. This is coming in from people that are illegals that are coming into the U.S. It's also being smuggled in by U.S. citizens. That's the crazy part, is everybody is bringing it into the United States because they can sell it for so much more here in the U.S. because there's people that will pay for it. Just look at this. Montana's fentanyl crisis worsens with a 20,000% seizure increase since 2019. A 20,000% seizure increase. But Montana is not the only state. Look at this. Oregon leaders just last month, they declared a 90-day state of emergency in downtown Portland to address the fentanyl crisis. Now, I've been to Portland recently, and one of the things I noticed in parks, or actually in a specific park, and I don't know if it's normal, but there were multiple little blue pills laying out there in the grass. That's interesting, because why do we continue to allow this in parks, right? Near schools, in malls, in shopping centers, right? Everywhere. Well, here's what's going on. And this is what most people don't realize, is that Congress and the Border Patrol, they've already purchased some machines that would actually prevent people from bringing and smuggling in fentanyl into the United States. Just look at this. Because Senator Jon Tester, who's a Democrat, he had this to say, but he asked Congress to fund the installation of border fentanyl scanners that are now sitting idle. He says after NBC News reported that fentanyl scanners sit unused due to missing funds, the Montana Democrats sent a letter to Congress blasting Republicans who blocked the money. Keep in mind, the reason why Republicans blocked the $20 billion going to the U.S. southern border is because it was tied to Ukraine, it was tied to Israel, to Gaza, it was tied to Taiwan funding, right? It was tied to all this other funding, which didn't necessarily fix the U.S. southern border. The other issue is that what was being proposed was there was going to be a set limit. If there were more than 5,000 immigrants that came into the United States on a single day, the president would have the authority to shut down the border. But that wasn't good enough. I want to read you some of this article, but before I do that, I want to show you what those scanners even look like. Here's one of those scanners right here. I believe this is at the Port of Nogales. Look at this. So you can see how it's working, right? The truck just drives right through it. That's all it's doing. Okay, and the reason why these work is because a truck can get through this. Okay, this machine right here, a truck can get through this in about 8 to 10 seconds. A large truck of this size. That's big. But the other reason why these are so important is because now smugglers are getting a little more sophisticated. They are now not just packing big things of fentanyl in a bag. What they're doing is they're cutting open their trucks, their vehicles, and they're stuffing it in there. Just look at this. This right here, you can see this is in a seat in a truck. Okay, you can see the headrest right there. This is a truck. They cut the seats because that's where they're hiding the drugs. Okay, now I want to read you what Senator Jon Tester is saying, but I want to actually read this article from NBC News as well. Okay, let's look at this. It says, As millions of dollars in fentanyl scanning equipment intended for the southern border sits unused, Senator John Tester from Montana is blaming Republicans and asking congressional appropriators to approve the money needed to install the machines in this year's Homeland Security funding bill. Again, this is one of the things that they're fighting over. Tester says Republicans who killed the bipartisan border security bill this year should now support funding to install the machines. And quote, many of these scanners are currently sitting in warehouses unused because Senator Mitch McConnell and politicians in Washington blocked bipartisan border security legislation that would have appropriated funds to install them. Now, yes, could they have appropriated funds to install these machines? Of course. But just because we have more of these machines does not mean that this is actually going to solve the problem. You know why? Because we still have many people, last report was between 7,000 and 8,000 people per day so far this month, are crossing the border illegally. Well, guess what? There's no scanners at the top of the border wall. There's no scanners at those gaps between the fencing and the mountainside. There's no scanners there. So people can enter into the United States illegally by smuggling fentanyl. Then there's no border patrol arresting all these people at every single location. So guess what? They continue to walk right in with these illegal drugs. But what are we doing to stop it? That's the big question. Well, I want to read you the end of this because I think this is something that most people are really wondering as to how is this going to really impact us? Because again, 99% of people have no clue there's a fentanyl crisis right now. Most people have no idea. But I want to read you this, okay? Look at this. It says, in a letter, the Republican lawmakers complained that while the CBP has received almost $2 billion to boost scanning, the percentage of vehicles scanned is only 2%. Okay? Let's keep reading. It says, Miller said he still needs about $200 to $300 million to put the equipment that the CBP purchased into the ground. He said that CBP is scanning less than 5% of personal vehicles. And by the end of 2025, he wants to be able to scan about 40% of personal vehicles. Here's the big thing. It says, it would not be practical to try to scan 100% of the vehicles crossing the border because of the volume of traffic. With 1 million people crossing the U.S.-Mexico border every day, he said, scanning every vehicle would shut down legitimate trade and travel. So, based off what we're hearing, having legitimate trade and travel is taking priority over American safety. Let me know if you think that is what's being said or if it's something different. Because based off of what I'm reading, they cannot shut down, they cannot scan 100% of crossing vehicles because that would shut down legitimate trade and travel. Interesting. Well, that's where things are at right now. Again, a lot of discussions right now regarding whether or not this is going to happen. We're going to see these scanning machines put in place. But as of right now, the question really is, do they prioritize this or are they prioritizing something else? Because based off of what we heard from many lawmakers, many Democratic lawmakers, they're all for President Biden's Bidenomics, increasing the economy, ensuring that jobs are still there. We're going to bring down inflation, right? We're going to see the interest rates drop eventually. If all this stuff happens, it could be very good news for the economy. But as of right now, the U.S. is still struggling. So, as we get any more information, I promise I'll fill you in on all the latest news and updates. But as of right now, that is what we know. So again, thank you guys for watching. Consider subscribing, and I'll see you guys on the next one.